Hey everybody, welcome to Plant Powered. I'm Chef Ryan Jennings of Sweet Pea Plant-Based Kitchen, and you're watching Eat This TV. On today's show, we are going to prepare two dishes that will warm you up this fall or this winter. We're going to make a ratatouille, a traditional French vegetable stew that's usually prepared in the late summer when there's the bounty of the growing season. That includes red peppers, eggplant, summer squash, and tomatoes. And then after that, we're gonna make one of our favorite soups at Sweet Pea. It's our cauliflower and sweet corn chowder. So we'll start first with the ratatouille. We have nice eggplant here. When you're shopping at the farmer's market and you see these, one thing that's important to do, you wanna pick a nice firm eggplant, and it should have a nice sound, like a good loaf of bread. So to start off here, we're just gonna dice some of it. I'm gonna trim off the ends. And those we will put in the compost. And then I'm gonna cut these parts here so that we have the nice colorful outside of the eggplant, and this we'll reserve for a soup or something else. From there, we'll just go through and cut them into a nice 1-inch dice. You don't want to cut the vegetables for this too small because these are fairly tender vegetables and we are going to be stewing them a bit, so you want a nice big piece so that they don't all just turn to mush. So then we're just going to go through, finish dicing them. Eggplant and its skins, you need a nice sharp knife. I love to use these Glestane knives. You can find them online through their website or at Corinne.com. That's where I got mine, here in New York City. Great. And we want to keep all the vegetables separate for this because they all cook at different rates. So we got our bowl there. Next thing we'll prepare our summer squash. So we've got a green zucchini here, and I'm just going to trim off either end and then cut them down. This is in two different sizes here. So I'll start with this sort of bulbous end. So for this, I want to remove this inside, kind of where the seeds would be if this grew a little bit longer. This will turn very mushy when we cook it, so I'm just going to take that off. You could use that for a soup. In fact, looks like we've got a nice soup bowl there, so maybe we'll make ratatouille soup next time. So we'll just remove those. And then we've got this side, or we'll have to remove a little bit less. Than before. This is a great dish to make near the end of summer, where perhaps you're getting some of the cooler nights. You know, anybody who's a gardener is always trying to find things to do with lots of zucchini. So this is a great dish. It freezes very well, so you can make it and have a little taste of summer once winter comes. And again, we're going to want to cut these into about a 1-inch dice. Here. And you'll see as I'm doing this, I'm completing one task before moving on to the next one. This is something you're going to see me do throughout the show. It helps you move more efficiently in the kitchen, helps you stay clean, helps you get to the end sooner. And that's what we're all looking for, right? Because we're hungry. So we'll just cut these down about the same size as the eggplant. Great. And get a little bowl for these as well. Now we've got a yellow squash. Prepare this the same way. You don't have to use yellow squash. You could just use all the green squash, but this is nice. It adds a little bit of color. The vibrant part of summer is having all those different vegetables and all those fun colors. And somebody told me once, you know, you eat with your eyes too. So if it looks great, smells great, you're gonna wanna eat it. Your guests are gonna wanna eat it. And this one's a little bit smaller, so we'll just cut this down to about 1-inch pieces as well. And these two we can mix together because they do cook at the same rate. Okay, and then we've got some bell peppers. We're just gonna cut off portion of that. We want it all in about equal proportions, and we've got a few different colors of peppers here. Again, bounty of summertime. Looks great. So we'll cut these down into 1-inch pieces as well. Now here you want to make sure to get out this white rib here. Those don't taste great. And cut these down as well. Good. So the last two things we're going to need for the ratatouille to prep on this side. One's a little bit of onion, and then we'll need some garlic as well. We've started cutting one up here, and we're just going to cut these down again into the 1-inch pieces like the other ones. Perfect. And then we've got a few garlic cloves. I use quite a bit of garlic in this, so for a dish this size we use about 6 cloves, so almost a whole head of garlic. And we're just going to remove the root end from our garlic. And then we'll slice that down as well. Okay. So I'll just slice this thinly. Garlic is so good for you. It's great to buy just a ton of it at the end of the summer. There's lots of antioxidants in it. In addition to just being delicious, it's one of those bedrock flavors that are key in Provence, where this dish originates from in France. Great. And then the other thing we're going to add here to the garlic is a little bit of thyme. So it's just fresh thyme. And so to pick these leaves quickly, you just want to start from, you want to have the root end at the bottom and pull towards the root end, and the leaves come right off. And these stems are good. You can save for stock. You don't want to waste anything. As I mentioned before in another episode, I went to the French Culinary Institute here in New York. And all the different chefs there, Jacques Pepin, Alain Saac, Andre Saltner, every day they would all look through our garbage cans to make sure that we weren't throwing out too much. But if they found a stem or too much of a carrot or something like that, they'd pick it out and put it on our station and give us a dirty look. So it's important not to waste anything. A farmer spent their time growing it for you, picked it for you, it got shipped to you. Hopefully it just didn't go too far and you got it at the local farmer's market or something like that. But there's a lot that goes into this and you don't want to waste. There we go. So we'll remove as much of the stems as possible. Sometimes when you get very tender thyme, like clipping from the top, you don't need to remove the stems, but these are woody ones and we don't want to have it there. Alternatively, one thing you can do is make a bouquet garni, and I'm going to add that in here as well. So we've got a leek here, and I'm just going to trim off the top. And we've got these green parts. Now, these are very good for stock. There's a lot of flavor in them, but they're not particularly good to just eat on their own. So what we're going to do is we've got these two pieces here, and we're going to take a couple of sprigs of parsley. We've got a few fresh bay leaves. They smell wonderful. Take another one and put it around the outside like this. And then you just tie this up with a little piece of butcher's twine, throw it into your super stew. It's a good way to use up these trimmings. It also adds a nice flavor, and then you're able to just pull it right out at the end and discard it. So that's all we really need to prep for this part of it. And next we'll just bring it to the stove and make our ratatouille, and we'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. I'm Chef Ryan Jennings, and this is Plant Powered on Eat This TV. The second dish we're going to prepare today is a creamy cauliflower chowder with sweet corn and brown rice. So we're going to start by preparing some of the aromatics that are going to help flavor that chowder, and then I'll show you how to cook it. So the first thing that we'll prepare here is a leek. There are many different layers to the leek. These first outside parts you want to make sure to remove because they're a bit tough. And then this nice sort of inner part and very light green parts are what you want to use. This root end we'll also get rid of as well. But it's important when you're preparing leeks to wash them real well. So I am going to just thinly slice these. And you'll see as you're cutting them, in the middle, there's a bunch of dirt. So what we're gonna do is just get them in a nice big bowl here. And we're just gonna fill this up with water, let them soak for a little while, and then pull them out. While those are soaking, we'll prepare the other items that we need here. So we've got this beautiful bulb of fennel. We're just gonna use some of the white part for this, for the color of the chowder. But this stuff, like, don't throw it out. It's great, sliced thinly with a pasta dish. Other trimmings you can use in stock. It's great in a salad, shaved thinly, which maybe we'll show you on a later show. But again, this has got a core. It's a lot like a cabbage or like that. The core you want to save and use for soup. We don't need all that much of the fennel, so we're just going to slice this thinly as well, just as we did the leeks. And we'll reserve something else here for another use. Then we have an onion, so we're just going to trim off both ends, go through the center, peel off the first layer and the outside, and we save that for stock. And then we'll just thinly slice some of this as well, about the same amount of leeks, onion, fennel. And when we came up with this recipe, a lot of times I like to play with the idea of mirepoix. So a mirepoix traditionally would be 2 parts onion and then 1 part celery and carrots, and that's a traditional basis for a lot of different dishes. This is our own kind of play on it, and it's like a white mirepoix. So we've got a bunch of different white vegetables. It gives you a little bit of a different, like, base flair, and you know, just playing with those little tweaks here and there can change your dishes and make them, you know, a little bit more individual. And I can tell you that your friends, your family, your guests will notice all of these things. So I'm also going to add just a couple of garlic cloves. We don't even really need to slice those because it's all going to get cooked down and pureed. And then we've got our leeks that have been soaking here. And it's important when you're washing vegetables. I can't tell you how many young cooks I've had to tell this over the years. You want to fill it up in a lot of water, agitate it, let the sand fall to the bottom, and then lift up. People will rinse all these things and then shake it and then just dump it through a colander, and they just dump the dirt right back into it. It drives me nuts. Good, and then you can see all the dirt that you removed at the bottom of the bowl. Okay. And so then, for the rest of it, we've got some cauliflower that we were preparing for another dish. We saved the cores, those are great for soup. And then we've got some florets, and we want about twice as much cauliflower as we have aromatics, so we'll get a little bit more of this as well. We're also going to save a little piece to add as garnish at the end. So for this, we're just going to roughly chop it down. The smaller you cut it, the quicker the soup cooks, and the faster you're feeding your friends and your family. So for this one, you know, you could do this in a food processor if you wanted to. I've had a knife in my hand for the past 25 years, and I don't really know what to do when it's not there, so I tend to just do these things by hand. Great. We've also got a little bit of ginger here. You notice that earlier when we were preparing the ratatouille, I separated all the different vegetables. They all have like a little different water content. Some of them are a little harder than others, which is why we separated them. They cook at different rates. This is a soup that's going to eventually be pureed, so we just want them to be cut around the same size so that they cook at the same rate, so that the puree is smooth and creamy, since we're not going to be adding any cream to it. I'm also just going to add a little bit of ginger, not much, mostly just so it'll be just something in the back of your palate that you're like, oh, what's that? And that's really all we need to do to prepare this. Now we're going to take it to the stove and cook it up. So doing all of this mise en place ahead of time really helps you at the stove when you're going to cook. Instead of going back and forth, we're just ready to go. We know what we need to do and we can get started. So we'll start both of these dishes kind of simultaneously here. We got a little bit of vegetable stock here, and then we're just going to add our cauliflower and aromatic vegetables to the pot. And a little bit more than we needed here. We'll save the rest for the garnish. Just give this a little stir. You'll notice here that I'm not adding any salt at the beginning. That's because we're going to be using miso to flavor this dish, fermented soybean paste from the great folks at Miso Master. And that's already going to have a lot of salt, a lot of umami punch, and that's where we're going to get the salinity of the dish. So we'll add that a little bit later on once we've sweated our vegetables. Okay. I'm also going to add a little bit of white wine at this time to let it cook. And we'll just throw a cover on this, move it right over, and let that simmer down while we start our ratatouille. So we've got another pan here, and again, we're just going to start with a little bit of vegetable stock. We've got our peppers, onions, celery, and the thyme that we picked here, and we're going to let this cook until it's softened a little bit. These take a little bit longer to cook than, say, the eggplant, and then the zucchini is gonna be the slowest thing to cook, or I'm sorry, the fastest thing to cook, so we're gonna add that at the very end. The other thing I'm gonna use to flavor this here is not too much, but just a little bit of smoked paprika. Just like with the ginger that we added to the chowder, this is going to add just a little bit of flavor, have folks wonder like, what is that little thing? But it's these little tweaks that really take your dishes to the next level. So the smoked paprika in this dish is a lot like the ginger we added to the chowder. It's that one little tweak that's going to take your dish to the next level and have your guests wondering like, what is that? Good, we'll check on our cauliflower while we're over here. Turn the heat up just a little bit to get that going. Good. Okay, we're also going to throw that bouquet that we made in earlier. So again, this is just the leek greens and a bunch of fresh herbs in here. This is going to give a nice sort of subtle herb taste to it. And when we plate the dish later, we'll add some fresh herbs to give it that sort of bite as well. And since we tied it up there nicely, it'll just come right out at the end. Be quite delicious. So now that those have sauteed just a little bit, I'm going to add in our eggplant. And at this point, I'm also going to add in our tomatoes. So these are our San Marzano tomatoes. You could use fresh tomatoes. That's actually the most traditional way to do that, is when you've got a bunch of great tomatoes from the garden at the end of summer. Go ahead and use that. But this is what we had today, and so that's what we're going to use. And add a little bit of vegetable stock to this. And now we're just going to let these both simmer for a little while. The ratatouille is just going to need a little extra seasoning at the end, and I'll show you how to puree the soup in a few moments. We'll be right back. Great, so our chowder has been sweating down here, the vegetables there, and we just want to add a few more ingredients here to help with the texture of the chowder. So everything's softened up nicely here. And now's when we're gonna want to add some of the miso paste that I was talking about before. This is nice, rich umami taste from the fermentation process. It also has almost kind of ocean taste to it. So in the spirit of chowder, we thought it would be appropriate here. We're also going to add some whole cashews. We have not toasted these. You could, but I don't really want the cashew flavor in here so much as I want the creaminess in the soup. So we're just going to add a little bit of it for that. And then we've got a little bit of vegetable stock. And then some almond milk. And so we want just enough in here to cover it by about an inch, and we'll save a little bit for later for when we puree the soup. So one thing I wanted to show is how we're going to prepare the garnish for our cauliflower soup. So we've got an ear of corn here, and we've just removed the husk from the outside. And if you can find a flat bowl like this, I find that it's like really helpful for this task in particular. So we just want to hold it up straight, and then we'll take a smaller knife and we'll just cut the kernels off. And then this way they don't go all over the place and they're held like right inside the board. It's also just a pretty quick, efficient way to get this done. Now, don't get rid of these things. These are wonderful in soup. In fact, I think I'm just going to throw it in ours right now and let it simmer, take it out at the end. But these corn cobs make a delicious stock. So when corn is in season and you buy a bunch of it, cut off all the kernels and simmer these in water with your fennel tops, some onions, some of those vegetable scraps you've been savoring for about 2 hours, and you've got this delicious stock that's just full of corn flavor. It would be wonderful in this dish or anything else that you're using corn in. So don't get rid of them. But next we're just going to quickly prepare the garnish and we'll be ready to plate the dish. So our ratatouille has been simmering for about 20 minutes now. All the vegetables are soft but have a little bit of texture left to them. You could go either way with it. It depends on your own personal taste and that of your guests. I like it with just a little bit of bite. Some folks like to cook it until it's, you know, very, very soft, and others like it, you know, with nice crisp vegetables. Anything's fine. It's all up to you. Just make sure it's nicely seasoned. We added just a little bit of sea salt to this, but again, those glutaminates that are in the tomatoes, they're giving you that nice umami flavor, really seasoning it all the way through, providing nice acidity. So we're just going to finish this with some herbs, and we're going to do it in 2 different steps. So first, I'm just going to take we've got some basil here and a little bit of parsley. And we're going to chop these up and we're going to mix them in while this is very hot so that they wilt down. And then we're also going to add a little bit on top at the end. So we've got kind of 2 different tastes. And you also remember that we put the bouquet garni in there earlier. So then we've got the nice stewed flavor of the herbs. And this is just great to do in the summertime when herbs are plentiful, fresh herbs are plentiful. You know, you don't want to have to be using dried herbs all summer long when there's so many fresh, nice ones out there to use. So also what we're going to do here, you see we've got the bouquet garni. That comes right out. We can put that in the compost. And then just mix those herbs in here nicely. Oh my God, this smells delicious. It reminds me of that great scene at the end of Ratatouille where the critic is transported back to being a little boy in France when his mom brought him this dish, prepared very much this way. Okay. So now, I mean, this would be great to serve if you're having a bunch of folks over. Just serve it right in the pot like this. It's a nice rustic dish, but we'll plate one up here. You know, this would be wonderful with pasta. It'd be wonderful with like a nice orzo salad or some couscous. It's the way we usually serve it at Sweet Pea with some couscous and olives. But you can have it just on its own. It doesn't need anything else except a few fresh herbs to just finish things off. So again, we'll pull a little bit of basil, a little bit of fresh parsley, and we saved that little bit of fennel from before. These frauds here are wonderful herb, perfect for this. We'll save a few more for the chowder. And we'll just thinly slice this. The French call it a chiffonade. And we'll just put a little bit more on top. Just that one last fragrant piece before you bring it out to your guests. And there we are, ratatouille. Great, so our soup is ready to puree now. We've simmered it for about half an hour. Everything's broken down. The cauliflower is nice and soft. The cashews are a little bit soft. So we just want to season it a little bit more right now. It's important, you know, throughout the cooking process to be tasting. You want to know, like, do we need a little bit more salt? Do we need some acid? Do we need a little bit more spice or something? So I'm going to taste this now. The miso in here from Miso Master is amazing. It's really brought the dish to another level. It adds that nice salinity, that oceanic flavor that goes well with the cauliflower. Doesn't need any more salt. I am going to add some white pepper. Good thing to point out about pepper at this point. A lot of folks use it, you know, on everything, right? So like when you talk about seasoning something, it's always salt and pepper. When I think about seasoning something, it's salinity and that's it. So the salt makes things taste like itself or more like itself. Too much salt, you taste the salt. But the right amount of salt makes things just sort of pop and taste as they are. Pepper are entirely different tastes. And there are a lot of different peppercorns. So black pepper has got like a kind of sharp taste that everybody's familiar with because it goes on everything. But then white pepper, I think, has got like a more earthy tone. It's also a different color. So as a rule of thumb, I usually season white things with white pepper if I've decided to. And I think for this and the miso, the cauliflower, everything goes very well. So we use just a little bit of that. I'm also just going to put a touch of maple syrup to help focus the sweetness of the cauliflower. And then we added a couple of things in here for the creaminess, right? So we've got the cauliflower, which is going to puree until smooth and creamy. And then we've also got the cashews in here, which are going to puree until smooth. So to cut that a little bit, we want some acid. So I'm going to add some lemon. These are organic lemons, especially when you're using the zest. You want to make sure that you get organic lemons so that you don't have all those pesticides and things. About half for this amount, and then we're just going to put about half a lemon as well. And again, we don't want it to be lemony per se, but we do want that nice freshness and acidity that this is going to add. Great. Now I'm going to use our trusty Vitamix blender to puree this, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we pureed our soup until smooth. This wonderful Vitamix blender helped us get us there. So now we can go right to the bowl with it. It's got just a wonderful texture. You'd never know there wasn't cream in there. We got there by using the cauliflower, adding a few cashews to it. The miso helps with the umami, the salinity, also adds a little creamy texture to it. And then here on the side, we saved a little bit of the aromatics that we cut up earlier. So the fennel, the leeks, onions, garlic. We cooked our sweet corn in there, and then we added some brown rice that we'd cooked ahead of time, just to make it a little bit more hearty. And we're gonna add this right to the center here. Perfect. And then we also saved the fennel tops here, And we're going to just kind of put a few sprigs of this around. It really makes for a nice presentation and adds a beautiful little anise flavor to it. And there we have it. Here's our cauliflower chowder with sweet corn and brown rice. Thank you all so much for joining me today as we prepared these hearty soups and stews. I can't wait for you to try them at home and cook them for your friends and family. They really are a wonderful way to provide nutritious and delicious things to the people that you love. And there's nothing more nourishing than a wonderful soup or stew. So try the ratatouille, try the creamy cauliflower soup, and I'll see you next time where we make some more delightful dishes powered by plants. I'm Chef Ryan Jennings, and thanks for watching Eat This TV.